Yeah, Bryan. What an amazing actor though, Bryan Cranston. Fucking to do Malcolm, the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, and then go to Breaking Bad. Like, what the fuck?
Hold on. Why are you holding your mic like we're recording now?
Because we are recording.
Yeah, bro.
Oh, welcome to the It's So Easy podcast.
It's so easy, baby.
It's so easy, baby. You got like a surplus of meal replacement shakes around here.
Yes, sir. Dinner on the go.
Yeah, you got to start going to the gym now.
No, you're thinking of protein shakes.
Oh, are they not the same thing?
No, sir.
Oh.
If you drink protein shakes in the place of meal replacement shakes and then don't work out, you're just going to get fatter.
Oh, that's the same with protein
Those
shakes.
are like...
Cancer.
Have you ever heard of the Slim Fast thing?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much the Great Value Slim Fast.
Slim Fast.
Hell yeah.
It's not
Lose
very
that
fast.
belly fat.
But
That's what I'm working on. I got to lose some belly fat.
the fuck kind of belly fat you got to lose?
Oh, I got some belly fat. I look funny because like I'm kind of like starting to get cut up here, and then I got this fucking beer gut. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm starting to not be able to fit in my pants though, and it's worrying me because it's like at the same time I'm like, hell yeah, leg day's paying off, and then I'm sitting there like, oh shit, I gotta go buy new pants now.
Yeah. Ken clothes won't work anymore.
No, I can't. I can't afford leg day anymore, dude. I got to stop doing it. No, my legs still hurt. It was 3 days ago. Fucking hate leg day. What was I had, oh yeah, my phone's up there. I had ideas, but they're on my phone.
Oh, damn.
Did you post them in the Discord?
Yeah, I posted one of them.
Yeah, dude. How's your guys' week's been, man? We haven't seen each other for a minute.
Dude, it's been weird. My week's been really weird. I downloaded an AI scheduler that's been life-changing, but I found out today that it was stupid expensive because I was on the free trial. I was thinking it was going to be like $30 a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And then they came out, and they make you pay yearly.
Really?
So it's like $230, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
The only thing I'm seeing in here is you mentioned something about a bear story in Pennsylvania.
Oh, bear story in Pennsylvania. Okay, we'll get to that later. But I downloaded this AI scheduler, and it's really cool because it's like you tell the AI like what you got, like you know, like how you write down your little task, like to-do list. You write it down, and you kind of estimate how long it'll take you to do that task. And if it's more than an hour, it'll break it down in chunks for you if you want it to. It doesn't have to, but like, and it'll schedule your whole day for you to make sure. I've gotten so much shit done this last week. It's pretty insane, but at the same time, I feel like I could kind of do it myself if I would just sit down in the morning and like schedule everything.
Right.
But I don't know. It was really nice. Like if you think of something to do, you just type it in, press create, and it'll put it in your schedule for you. And it's kind of like having your own secretary. But
That's badass, dude.
I think it's a little out of my price range, but if it was monthly, it'd be great, you know. But yeah, $230 for a year. I ain't got that money right now, you know.
Yeah, just so you know, I think that calendar there was about $5.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got a calendar on my phone too. That was free. Well, my phone wasn't free, but yeah.
Yeah, my girl had her gallbladder removed this week. She had over 100 stones in her gallbladder. Went to the hospital like 3 times in an ambulance, and they'd send her back home, even though she had like a blood infection and everything. So we finally sent her to a different hospital, and she had surgery and stuff. So we've been dealing with that this week. It's been nonstop bullshit between that and the weather and everything else.
Yeah, our hospitals here around Morgan County are kind of ass.
They really are, dude. IU Bloomington, go fuck off. Get
Fuck off. It was like when I was having those breathing issues over the summer. Like I went to St. Francis, and they were like, "Yeah, you're fine." And then I'm out in my front yard, like cleaning my van, and I called my doctor to set up a doctor's appointment. I was like, "Yeah, they told me I needed to go check." And I was like, "What's your symptoms?" "Oh, I've been really, short of breath and lightheaded and all this." And he's like, and the nurse is like, "Can you go in the mirror and check your lips for me?" And I did, and I was like, "Oh, they seem fine. Are you sure they're not blue?" I was like, "Well, now that you mention it, they kind of look blue." They weren't. I was just like, they kind of look blue. And he's like, "Okay, do I need to call you an ambulance?" I was like, "No, that's fine. I'll drive to the hospital." And he's like, "No, I think I need to call you." "No, please do not call me a fucking ambulance."
We can't afford that shit around here.
Yeah, I will drive. If I have a heart attack on the way to the hospital, sayonara, bitches. I'm not calling a fucking ambulance.
Yeah.
So it scared the shit out of me thinking I was having a heart attack. And I sat in this waiting room for like 6 hours. And this was IU West, I think it was. It was ridiculous. I walked up there. It's like, well, I'm short of breath, lightheaded. My doctor told me to come to the ER right away. And they're like, okay, just sit over there and we'll get to you. And yeah, I sat there. There was a lady behind me that had kidney stones. She was in so much pain, she was throwing up. And they were like, Mr. Hernly, and I was like, can she go, please? Like, I think she's dying.
Right. This person just got hit by a car.
Yeah, like, what the fuck, y'all?
We've been here for 6 hours.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about our healthcare system.
No, not at all.
Therapy's decent, but other than that.
Right.
What cracks me up is that's like a pretty big political subject, right? But there's some things it's just like, this shouldn't be political.
Right. Yeah.
And one of them, I don't know how we as a nation can't all agree, like, what we have in place right now for hospitals and stuff, it sucks.
Right.
It definitely sucks. I'm not going to say I know what the better way to do it is.
I no freaking clue.
But I know there's a better way to do it.
There's got to be some better way.
And they've made like testing for, whether if you want to be an EMT or anything, it's hard to get into school. The tests are harder. Like they're randomized. They keep, you think like if you want to have like a nation full of, medical professionals, you'd get kids into it and start putting free programs into school. And it's like none of that's happening. That's why you got one doctor in every town.
Yeah. And then 12 nurses each with their own OnlyFans account.
Who don't know shit.
Yeah. Some of my nurses I've had recently have been really grumpy. I was like, why'd you sign up for this?
Yeah.
Like, don't say it's the money, because there's plenty of warehouse jobs that probably pay the same damn amount,
Yep.
Do you know how many people they've come in looking just like you from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory with various injuries?
Yeah, right. Well, it's like I don't ever come into and there's a doctor on YouTube that has spoken up about this, how people are afraid to go into the doctor for anything now because just how some people are treated when they just go in there for nothing. I'm scared to go into the doctor because it could be something serious, like my breathing issues that I was having, and they wrote it off as anxiety the first couple times. Yep. And it's just like, no, it's not. I've had anxiety for 10 years. I know what's anxiety and what's not anxiety. There's something seriously wrong here, And yeah, I still got some issues that I wish they would really look at, but I had that one issue I was telling you guys about when we played Route 67. It felt like there was a balloon in my gut.
Yep.
And they x-rayed it and nothing was there, so that was probably just acid reflux. But it's like, it took me like 3 visits to the doctor before they finally x-rayed me. I was like, well, thank God it's not like pancreatic cancer or something, Right. But no, there's a doctor that spoke up about that on YouTube, how he's sad to see that a lot of people are scared to go in and do anything because doctors are like that, Like,
well, and it's fucking expensive to be told, yeah, nothing wrong with you. That'll be $700.
Right? If I'm already in there, just go ahead and give me an MRI. I was telling my buddy about that. I was like, why don't we just give people, like, I know it's expensive, but like yearly MRIs just to make sure that like everything's good, because you know how many stories you hear about cancer that just magically appears. And it's like, I don't know much about MRIs, but I feel like, one MRI a year and make sure that you're good, or every 2 years or 3 years or something,
Yeah. It's, I don't know, dude. It's like testosterone right now. It's like a super huge trend for everybody to be on.
Yeah.
And it's not like healthy to be blasting that shit. And a lot of people get prescribed it. And then like, for some reason, don't change any other factors in their life. Yeah. Like keep eating the same foods and shit.
Oh, dude.
And so they have to go get blood drawn. Like, it's a, I forget what it's called. But yeah, basically you get testosterone and your blood becomes too thick. Like foamy.
Yeah.
And the doctors will keep giving it to him anyway.
Well, and another thing is, even if you take it like at a regular pace, it's one of those things where your body quits relying on itself to produce it, correct?
I'm not a specialist in it. Yes and no. I think it kind of depends.
We are not medical professionals.
Right. Yeah, we don't know shit. We don't know shit. If you're looking for us for advice, you're stupid. Go on.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. It's just like it's like a huge trend right now for, instead of like fixing the shit that's in your life, like your rest, getting proper rest, your diet and all that stuff. I think it's called dude, it's something therapy. It's like don't quote me on this. We'll get rid of this. We're not talking about this. No, yeah, I don't know, dude. What were we saying?
So like, even to touch on that topic, you were saying that people are doing all this shit and not changing their life. I had that awakening with my belly fat, like I was talking about earlier. I was like, I've been going to the gym for 3 months now, and I'm still not getting rid of my belly fat. And then I went to my whole health doctor, and he was like, well, you're still eating like shit. You're still not sleeping the way that you should be sleeping. And also, just because you're going to the gym doesn't mean you're doing the things in the gym
that you need to be focused on.
Yeah, that you need to actually, like, it may not even be that you're not working hard enough. It's just that you're not
working on the right things.
We're working on the right things or doing something, which I think my workout regimen is pretty good, but I don't, like, I love soda and I love junk food because I've always been the kind of guy that at the end of the day, when I'm done with my day, I'll lay in bed and eat fucking chips and watch TV or something. And now I have to break myself out of that now that I'm getting older, and I'll keep, like, a bag of nuts by the bed. That way, just in case I ever get those cravings or whatever.
I have one on me 24/7.
Yeah, I've always got bags of nuts, man. No, but that's something that's always kind of like...
I think it's a therapeutic lobotomy.
Yeah.
Don't quote me.
Right. Don't quote me on that. No, but one thing I've noticed about the workout community, especially since Facebook is such a weird stalker that knows when you get into shit. And I've had all these things pop up on my, reels and all that stuff. And it's all these guys that are, it's like you go to the gym because you want to get healthy and you want to get more cut, or you want to look better, or you want to feel better. My opinion, you go to those things because you want to feel better about yourself. Right. And I think a lot of people, they go in there and they want to be like this beefcake juiced up guy because that's like the common thing nowadays. That's like everybody wants to be this jacked bulk dude, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like they go about it they completely go the opposite way, where they do unhealthy shit to get like that, and it destroys their bodies just as much as it would be eating junk food and shit. But I don't know much about it. But, yeah.
I gotta say too, one of the most important things I think when it comes to that stuff, even if you're not getting like the exact results you're wanting at the gym, it's good to be doing fucking something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that just do absolutely nothing. But if you're going to the gym and you're still not eating right and all that stuff, at the end of the day, you'll be able to say you went up 2 flights of stairs and you're not fucking huffing and puffing when you get to the top of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's good to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
You trust the process.
You'll get results doing something.
Yeah, my thing with everything in life like that is I've always told myself it's better to get up and try again than, because people used to give me shit all the time because I've quit smoking probably 1,500 times in my life. And one of my old friends used to make fun of me. He's like, so you're quitting smoking again? It's only going to be a couple more months before you pick it back up again. And I was like, you know what? And I'm going to try again. And I'm going to keep trying until I fucking get it right. And here I am about 4 months, or I don't know, probably 6 months now into this time around. And it's just like, there's more credibility in just keep trying than to just, I'm not going to do it, and they don't ever go back, Yeah.
Well, I find a lot of people want, like, and I know I'm a nerd, so I'm going to call them cheat codes.
Cheat codes.
They want everything about their life to be perfect, but they want to put absolutely no effort into making it that way. You hear all these people crying and screaming, this is what I deserve. And it's like, but what are you doing to earn it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you have somebody that's like, yes, well, what they're putting in our food and all of this stuff, this is why I'm 350 pounds. And it's like, well, no, unless you have some kind of medical condition, the reason you're 350 pounds is because you're sitting in front of a TV eating Doritos.
Yeah.
If you want to make a difference before you start going to the gym or anything, replace those Doritos with fucking pretzels or something like that. Start with that change and then keep finding little changes you can make until you get to the point where you're used to making these changes.
Yeah. And a lot of times people have a hard time, like somebody in my life that I know, I think it was hard for him to quit anything, including drugs or cigarettes, because he's never known life without it. He's never gone through anything that changes his lifestyle because he's lived in this same repetitive motion. And I think some people have a hard time seeing the benefits of that. And like the other day, I'm working on this this really weird bass drum part that John Bottom used to do all the time. It's the triplet kicks in Good Times, Bad Times. And it's been the biggest pain in the butt because I hate doing stuff on drums that I can't do because I've always been naturally good at playing drums. And that was always been my problem growing up, playing in high school and stuff, is I hated doing stuff on drums that I didn't want to do because it was a pain in the butt. I was so good at it. Why the hell would I, and then now I'm working on stuff that I'm normally not good at. And it was the other day, and how I get better at it is I would put on a timer for 10 minutes, and I would play that same measure of that song over and over again. Do do ga, do 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 ga, do do ga, do 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 ga, and I'd sit there watching TV, playing that for 10 minutes to a metronome, and I'd start at 60, go to 70 BPM, 80 BPM, 90, 95 is at tempo. So okay, let's go to 100, go to 110. I'd go as quick as I think I could get it.
Over prepare.
Yeah, over prepare for it. That way, by the time I go back to 95, it's simple. And then the other day, I sat down and I played the song and I nailed it. And I about lost my damn mind because I never thought it was something I can do. And that feeling of accomplishment, of putting in the work, it's just, I think once you start to actually feel, and that's why I think people that actually do work hard are more realistic about their goals, because they realize, oh, this small thing I just accomplished was well in my wheelhouse. Imagine what I could do after this, but I got to set smaller goals. Some people, they start setting things and they're like, I'm going to be this muscle man. I was like, no, let's just how about we just get to the point that we've been going to the gym for 3 months.
Yeah.
Get to the point where we're eating our 3 meals a day. We're eating those right. We're eating good 3 meals a day. Now let's work down to what are we snacking on? Okay, if we need to snack, let's see what we're snacking on. And
one of the biggest differences me and Emma are seeing right now, and thank God she can cook. But for example, like pot pies, we've gone from buying those to she's making them from scratch.
yeah,
And when you take single ingredient foods and bring them together and make a food that wasn't like mass processed and all of that stuff, it is automatically just healthier.
you also save money.
Well, you do. But I mean, you feel better.
Yeah.
You don't wake up feeling like shit every day, and like even just that small change has made quite a bit of a difference for us.
That's something my jiu-jitsu coach always says, is like, we don't practice things until we, finally didn't get it wrong. We practice it until we can't not get it right. You know what I'm saying?
You create the path of least resistance in your own brain.
Yeah. Well, it's even bigger than that. Like if you're like a knife smith, for example, just beginning out, you don't make your first good one and then like, all right, I'm good trying here. You got to make 1 million of those, do it until you can't do it any other way but doing it right.
Yeah.
And, like you were saying, over preparing, we were kind of touching on trying to repeat patterns that other people do and hoping that you get their same results out of it. Like, whether if it's going to the gym, and because, this dude's big and strong and buff and on steroids, he became an influencer and is, a millionaire. So, like, you go to the gym to lift weights to become a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? Or you see a good musician and you're like, well, I'm going to play in that style because playing that way got him those results.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, like we're talking about taking little steps, it's hard to try repeating the same, shit that everybody else is doing, and then you're not getting the same results, and you're like, fuck. Like,
well, my thing is, like, the gym influencers, that's something they love. That's something they're passionate about, because you never want to go for something that you're not passionate about. I'm not going to try to make a YouTube channel about knives because I'm not passionate about knives.
Right.
That might be something Brandon does, but it's not me.
The only video I've ever posted was about knives, and it's sitting at around 33,000 views right now.
I think you need to bank on that, to be honest. But anyway, so like those guys, they want to go to the gym to be an influencer because they love the gym. They love going to that. And I think, like, my problem is I started going and I wanted to be a guy that was just like in love with the gym. But now I'm getting to my flatten out point where it's like, this is starting to turn into something in my life that I need to do it. It's good for me. And I do enjoy it. But there are some days that I hate it. There's some days that I wake up and I don't want to do it. But, which, as opposed to playing drums or writing songs, there's not really a whole lot of days that I wake up and I don't want to do it. There's days that I suck at it, there's some days I can't even play a paradiddle worth of shit, you know.
Right.
But the gym, it's like there's some days where it's just like, and I think that's also a healthy thing is doing something that you know you don't want to do all the time, but it's good for you and you do it every day.
Right.
And I'm currently going through a lifestyle change myself. I'm trying out. Like we were talking about following other people's paths. I believe success leaves footprints. So I'm trying to follow the paths of other people and setting my daily routines to stuff, you know, like going for a morning walk. Can't do that right now, but it's
Well,
hard
you
to-
could.
Yeah, but it's kind of cold, but you know, waking up, having a glass of water when I wake up and taking my vitamins and, you know, taking a shower and making a good breakfast and planning out my day instead of just kind of freeballing it and writing down everything I need to do. And because what I did before, when I would write down everything I need to do, I'd find one thing and I would work on that one thing for like hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really get a whole lot done that day. Whereas opposed to, I'll work on this one thing. And if I don't need to get it done today, I'll work on it for like an hour. Then I'll move it to the next day or move it to later today and I'll work on some other things. And I get all these things accomplished. And I feel like I'm actually working a normal job, but I'm still running my business. I'm getting a lot done. You know,
Yeah.
because I wake up at 7:30, do my morning ritual, and by the time I'm done with my morning ritual, it's 9:00, and I'm sitting at my computer ready to work. And if I don't need to get any computer work done, I'm sitting at my drum set practicing for whatever, you know.
There's something I need to ask you before I lose it, but this is something I haven't heard anybody mention before.
What?
You're talking about paradiddles, and it kind of got me thinking a little bit. Hold on. If I'm playing slap bass, right?
Yeah.
We've already compared, you know, there's the bass and there's the snare, right? Is there any reason I wouldn't be able to apply drum rudiments to my slap bass technique?
Oh yeah, you could.
Yeah, you could.
You
For
can.
sure.
You,
You think
can
so?
apply. You can apply. I don't know so much rudiments, but you can apply. Well, for that you can because that's same as left, right, left, right. But there's a lot of drum stuff you can apply to instruments because a lot of drum stuff is practicing timing, practicing your rhythms, and like a lot of like if you're practicing a strumming pattern, you're practicing a groove on the bass. You know, like ba ba da ba da ba da ba. Dun, 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 dun. You know, that can be applied in the same direction. A lot of times, whenever if I see somebody having tempo issues, I will like my advice would be to sit down with that certain part or whatever you're playing. Like a lot of like a very common bass thing would be doom 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 doom, and you're having problems keeping that in time. I would sit down with a metronome, even with your electric bass, and you're watching TV. I would sit down with that metronome in one of your ears and just doom 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 while you're watching TV, and I guarantee your tempo issues will change dramatically. And that's a drum thing. Drummers, we don't. We have to do things. We have to learn things by muscle memory. That's
Well,
like
I think that's for
I think that's
pretty
damn near
much any
anybody.
music.
Yeah, because you know the first step is learning something, the second step is mastering that something, then the third step is applying that, and then the fourth step is being creative with that. So a lot of people they get to the learning step, but they don't get to the mastery step because they learn it and they're like, I want to start throwing this and shit that I'm doing. But the important part about the mastery thing is that you can play that. What Kris said. There's no way you can get it wrong. So then you can start putting it in stuff. Because if you learn it, because you don't want to be that douchebag that shows up to rehearsal with that new lick you learn, and then you go to play that lick and you're out of time and you screwed up everybody and you're like, oh, I'm the fucking dickhead. But if you go to rehearsal and it's mastered and you play it and you're like, check that shit out, you know, it's a mic drop, and they'll probably turn at you and be like, you're overplaying, but at least you nailed it. You know?
yeah.
But like what you were,
That's
what,
something a bass player will hear every day.
what you were saying, Brandon, was like if a bass player could apply a paradiddle, you could literally. What's cool about paradiddles or any rudiment is that they're basically rhythms. You know what I mean? So like, is a paradiddle. You know what I mean? And if like you were to pan that right and left, in your ears, you know, you'd have like this weird spatial thing going on. But like as a bass player, you could literally be like on your hands, literally right, left, left, hitting open strings with one, or you could literally on your fingers alone, right, left, left,
I was just thinking about that because
you can permutate a paradiddle with your foot in your hand, you know?
yeah.
Well, one of the big things when it comes to slap bass, one of the things you hear me use often if I'm doing like a solo or something like that, you'll slap the top string, dun, and then you just smack the strings like this, and it's
got
another percussive effect. Dun 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 dun, and that's what makes that.
Yeah.
If you got really good at paradiddles, that would be really useful because like paradiddles are one of the most useful drum rudiment, if not the drum rudiment. So like, you know, you hear like drummers play some crazy fast shit that's really easy, and all it is that's kind of a double paradiddle. But you know, just kind of things like that is like, you know, you put that on the bass. I guarantee a lot of those guys that are playing like fast shit, they use techniques like that.
Right. They don't.
Really?
What they do when they talk about that stuff with bass, because I have tried, because I don't only want to apply that to slap bass, right? Like Kris was saying, I want to be able to apply that with fingerstyle and hammer-ons and shit like that. None of them ever talk about rudiments like that you would apply as drums. They all talk about, okay, well, you know, this pattern in the song or this particular technique, and it's like, if you were to approach that, and that's what I was thinking when you said that, if you were to approach that from like, I need to learn my rudiments and apply them to a bass guitar, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
I think once you found the accents, you could apply it like tonally, like literally just understanding the bun, dun, bun, bun, jump, bun, dun, dun. I don't know, maybe you can move up that like a scale bun, dun, bun, bun, jump, bun, dun, dun, bun, dun, bun, or something like that, you know?
I could see that work, yeah.
I don't know.
My thing is with the whole slap thing, like for example, it can make a lot of those slap things be a lot easier to play, especially if you're alternating hands with that kind of thing, because like you take like a single stroke roll versus a paradiddle diddle, which paradiddle diddle is my favorite rudiment, but you know.
I just heard Ned Flanders say that.
You know, like you play it like a single stroke, well, it's arguably harder to play it, but you play it like a paradiddle diddle. It's a lot easier to play. You play it a lot faster.
That's where that spang-a-lang comes in.
Yeah, Spangalang. Yeah.
You know, that's actually how Steve Harris played bass, too.
What?
That exact technique. Everybody thinks, and I did too, and that's the whole reason I even learned how to use this finger. But that gallop he would do, the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
He's actually going dun 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 dun. He doesn't ever use this finger.
So I have a question, Brandon.
Yeah.
So is slapping the bass, does it mean one thing? Like, to me, what I'm asking as a drummer, is it like equal to a flam, for example? Because a flam is like essentially where I hit both hands almost at the same time, but I'm like, it's more of like a guitar string strum.
So first, you need to understand that we're doing something I've never heard people do, and that's, we are combining techniques when we talk right now, right?
Well, like rhythmic theory and tonal theory are essentially the same thing.
So what you're talking about,
but do you?
it's just a different technique. It's a different way of attacking the string. So
is it at the same time usually, or is it like a?
No.
Okay.
So the only difference, right? You've got finger style. You've got the guys that use a pick. We won't talk about them. When you slap, you reposition your hand, and instead of plucking the string with a finger or a pick, you basically bounce this part of your thumb off of the string to create a tonally different note. And then you'll take a finger and pluck the other string like this.
It's almost like a double stroke for you guys.
Yeah, kind of. But it severely differs in how it's applied.
Okay.
So like I said, if you're playing a regular finger style bass line, right, you can take that G and you could play it light and get your boom, or you could play it harder and get your boom. But if you slap it, that's going to get that boom.
Right.
Makes sense?
Okay.
But it also really opens up the door to be more percussive when you switch to slap style, because essentially your thumb turns into your kick drum and your finger, and people use one of these two fingers to play. Everybody's a little different. But that other finger turns into your snare, and you approach it much like that.
Okay. That's awesome. That's dope, dude. Yeah.
So... yeah, it's not necessarily like a rudiment or anything like that. It's just the way you're attacking the string.
Okay.
It's kind of like the difference between hitting a rim shot and a rim shot, rim click, and a center of the snare kind of hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's dope, dude. I know somebody out there is loving that.
Oh, good shit. Yeah, I'd never. That's kind of crazy that nobody's ever thought about applying rudiments to.
Look it up on the internet.
I
Dude. There's
think-
not a damn thing out there about it.
I think there's got to be jazz cats doing it for sure.
Because
There might be people practicing it. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, but there's nobody teaching it to you that's telling you to approach it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because drum rudiments are supposed to help for help around the kit to kind of speed things up, speed up your hands, to get your hands used to playing different kind of rhythms, and it's also to help train your body to play different sorts of. I don't know who designed rudiments, but he was a genius because if you learn all 40 of your rudiments and you really kind of not master them, but really get them down, it helps with so many different like drum set stuff.
Right.
Especially if you get them down with your feet and your hands and all that. Like, I don't know who that
Permutating.
crazy Australian drummer is. I can't remember his name, but he was on Drumeo a bunch of times, dude. He does a whole lesson on the paradiddle. And he did it all around the kit, and he started playing it with
Thomas
his feet.
Lang?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thomas Lang. And he did that crazy double bass paradiddle shit. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Even Jared was like, just sitting there looking at him like, oh god, it was good. But no, I've never even really thought about applying that with stringed instruments because there's so much other technique to work on other than that. But I guess it could be applied.
Well, that's one of the like when you hear me play bass, I always try to approach it somewhat like obviously rhythmically. Maybe I should say percussively. That's something I've had to hold myself back from. Is I will use ghost notes when there's a certain drum beat. So instead of just playing boom 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 boom, I'm playing dun dun dun.
Well, that's an old stand-up bass kind of style.
Well, it's great for stand up, but when you're clicking through your pickups, it's not as good.
I could see that.
And it's like that's something I have to hold back from. And I'm not a fucking good drummer. I'm not a good cajon player. But when you hear me play a cajon, I'm not doing the boom.
Yeah.
I'm playing all of the beats I hear in between that, which is probably why I'm a bad cajon player.
I do the same thing when I play cajon. I'm a weirdo, and I love playing the cajon not as much as I love playing set because you can do a lot more fun stuff on set. But if somebody tells me to come out and play cajon, I'm like, well, hell yeah! I just get paid to bring out a box and hit it with a stick all night. This is gonna be good.
Right.
It's weird, but that's my love for percussion is all the different things you can do with stuff like a cajon, a cocktail kit. Full-on drum set,
Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise, yeah, dude. And like mayonnaise literally is an instrument when you're a percussionist. It's pretty crazy. And then you get these guys on Instagram that are just taking wacky shit and making crazy drum beats with them, like metal rods. They're dipping in the water and makes that boom kind of. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, dude.
And I love diving into like the world of like cinematic percussion where they find all the different. I've been meaning to try this, but there's a guy that I follow on I think it's YouTube, but he'll make shorts where he'll find a random rhythm, like might just be the beginning of like the Mario theme song or whatever, and he'll start playing random percussion instruments. And one of the ones that he played was a ride cymbal with a piece of tinfoil on it. And it sounded cool. It sounded like some Insidious, like, kind of shit. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Then there's Zildjian makes this, like, kind of like spirally cymbal, where it looks like a normal cymbal, but they cut it, and it just droops down like a Christmas tree, and they hit that thing. That thing sounds crazy as fuck, too.
They made a really thick spring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pretty much, and you can hit it with a stick, or you can take a bow to it. And that's one thing I really want to buy one day is a bow. Because you can use them on cymbals and they sound crazy as fuck.
I got a crossbow, but
like a violin bow.
I would love to see that shit one day. Just somebody's got the fucking arrows with the blunt tips on them sitting behind a drum kit and a fucking gong. Just bam.
There's a story I heard from I think it was Ted Nugent's guitar tech. He just got done working on one of his guitars and he held it up to check it out, and Ted Nugent shot an arrow right in the fucking middle of it. Do people still use bows for stringed instruments? Like Jimmy Page was really popular for doing that. He took a bow to his guitar.
So there's a device, and from what I hear, it's a piece of trash.
Oh.
But there is a device you can buy for your bass that you just like clip over the bridge, and it's electronic. So you hold down a button over which one, and it is a little wheel that acts like a bow, and then you play it like that. When it comes to actually using bows, that's one of those niche things that I think, like, there's only a few people that are going to get away with that.
I talked to when I was
I mean, outside of violins and shit, of course.
yeah I was when I was a lot younger, I talked to a guy at Guitar Center about that. I was like, well, Jimmy Page used a bow on his guitar, and he's like, just because he did it doesn't mean it sounded good.
No. Well, and that was the thing with that bass thing is you saw the advertisement for it, and you're like, that sounds fucking beautiful. Like, I wouldn't be able to use it much, but I would be able to use that. And then you look up a YouTube video, and it's like, okay, I can't.
Yeah, the pitch is always better than the actual like product. It's about to change the face of music forever. My thing is, if there's not some weird motherfucker on Instagram that's doing it already, it probably hasn't changed the face of music.
No. Man, there's a lot of those gimmicky inventions too.
Yeah.
I used to go to the NAMM show with my dad. He runs a store up in Tennessee called Mount Juliet, or that's where it used to be. It was Mount Juliet. He runs a store in Rivergate called Spirit Music.
Yeah, Samurai Guitars has a whole series on YouTube about those gimmicky gadgets.
Dude, and you would go to NAMM show, and it like, do you know that fret wipe you see all the time now, where it's this little plastic thing with a microfiber cloth glued into it?
Oh yeah.
And you just clip it around your strings and drag it up. I was there when they introduced that at the NAMM show, and me and Dad, they were trying to give them out for free, like just to it. They look for people that has like the business tag on them, and they'll be like, "Here, take this." I love going with Dad because he always had that tag on him.
Yeah.
We would walk out with like a bag of just free gimmicky shit. That's the first thing I ever seen him pass, and he was like, yeah, no thanks. I have a cloth in my gig bag.
That's funny. Man, I would have loved to have gone out to I think the NAMM was in California this year, wasn't it?
There's 2 NAMM shows every year.
Oh, that's right. There's one in Cali and one in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Well, the one in California, I guess Sugarfoot was walking around, and Sugarfoot's Michael Jackson's old live drummer.
Right.
And they called him Sugarfoot for a reason, because he had a hell of a right foot. And he would always, like, it's funny because all the bass drum parts he plays are the bass drum parts that I would have loved to have played to Michael Jackson stuff, but just don't have the ability right now. Hopefully, like, you know, like Smooth Criminal is dun 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 dun, you know, but he actually plays the do 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 do, and that's why Michael liked using him as a live drummer, because, you know, it was better to dance to if you can nail it. If you're dragging the whole time, it sucks, you know.
Oh yeah.
But and that's what he was known for, and I guess he was just walking around the NAMM show, and I would have loved to have just gotten a picture with him. You know, he's a cool drummer. He's not one of my favorite drummers in the world, but he's a cool guy, you know. And Grayson was there too.
Was it? Yeah.
Grayson's a guy that got famous for playing. He's like, God, he was like 19 when he blew up, and I was so fucking mad. But he's from New York, and I can never pronounce his last name, but his name's Grayson, and he got famous for playing like Buddy Rich songs.
Yeah.
Like, he was damn near like Buddy Rich playing. I mean, his dude's insane. And was it Tendencies?
Yep.
Yeah. Suicidal Tendencies, of all people, he's their new drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's starting to get like real metal chops and shit going.
Yeah.
Using a double pedal. And
Yeah, it's cool watching him progress and shit. But yeah, it was funny because he went on Drumeo, he was like, this is how you play swing music. And then he played for Suicidal Tendencies. I was like, fucking hey, dude. It was funny because when he first started doing it, you could tell he was kind of having trouble doing it. Because that's some hard shit to play. The
real energy punk shit. You know? Like,
were they able to successfully replace Robert Trujillo?
I mean, he's doing a pretty damn good job. Grayson is. I mean,
no, I mean the bass player.
Oh, I don't know shit about the band. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
I just they had a song. I can't remember what it was called, but the music video was like all clowns and circus shit, and the bass line was it was all quadruplets, and it was dun, 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 dun. Wow. And the way you had to play that was your pinky finger had to be just as strong as these other 3 fingers, and it's the whole fucking time you're playing.
You have to drink a Pepsi before you played it.
You gotta have a Pepsi, man. Beep.
I'm not a fan of 98% of their music, truth be known. But they've had a couple songs where it's the bass line that I'm like, how in the hell do you just sit down and come up with that? And then how do you waste that going to play for Metallica?
I got the money laying on the counter in here if you want it. But another band, I always used to get them and Corrosion confused, mixed up all the time.
Corrosion of Conformity?
Yeah, and Adam showed me a bunch of our bus driver, which he'll probably be on here at some point. But
if we're allowed to air it.
Yeah, if we're legally allowed to air it. No, he showed me a bunch of B-side Corrosion songs that were killer.
Really?
I've never really listened to them. They're a great band too. I guess their drummer is who taught. Now don't quote me on this. I guess he taught Dave how to play.
Grohl?
Yeah, Dave Grohl, or at least
Really?
because I always thought Dave was self-taught. So I'm wondering if it was one of those Dave was self-taught, got in the scene, and hey, come here, let me show you a few things, kind of shit, you know.
Right.
But yeah, Dave was such a great drummer, so it's but you can tell listening to the dude play. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. That's my goal by the summertime is I want to have a consistent right foot like Dave did.
Yeah.
Because Dave, he was really good at, he laid down, almost double bass foundations with his playing. Like on My Hero,
Right.
And it's just, it's a workout on your right foot. I mean, he may not have played anything crazy like Bottom did with his right foot, but, that foundation shit's really fucking cool.
No, but he did at least have some skill. And that's how I know if I was in Nirvana, we would have never got famous. It would have never happened because it would have been me as the bass player, and Kris was a decent player. Looking at the drummer and going, we got to fucking get rid of this guy, man.
Oh, really? Oh.
I mean, imagine somebody walks in the room and they play guitar like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Dave. I'm like, dude, Dave was the best drummer in the 90s, hands down.
No, that's what I'm saying. You had a decent bass player and drummer, and then you had Kurt Cobain. And it was they got big on what they did, but it would have been the second rehearsal. I'm like, hey, listen, we got to get rid of this guy.
You know how it worked? So the reason why it went the way that it did is because Kurt was actually looking for a drummer. Nirvana put out a musicians wanted ad, and Dave Grohl answered the...
What are you trying to tell me, Emma? Can't get it. Oh, because of the cars behind you?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Do you want to take Brandon's car and I'll move mine? I don't give a shit. I'll step outside right now. They can talk about bullshit. What do we got? We got 15 minutes. I don't care.
We're probably shooting a second episode anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where we're going to put a technical difficulty screen, I imagine.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
No, you're okay.
We're sorry.
You kept looking at me and I was like, I cannot translate eyebrows. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I'm behind you, Taylor.
No, you're next to him.
Okay.
Wait, are you the one behind Emma's car then?
That's might be a good question.
The black Tahoe is behind me, so Kris is behind the Honda. Okay.
Well, I guess Dave is the best drummer in the 90s. There were a lot of great drummers.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I said a decent bass player and drummer. Dave was never a fucking musical genius, but he had a lot more technical skill to him than you would expect. Because when you hear Nirvana, when you hear somebody talk about Nirvana, you just always hear oh yeah, they all suck at music, and that was their sound, was them sucking really loud. Which this is coming from a Nirvana fan. I'm not trashing them.
No, I got you.
But yeah, that's what always cracked me up is that you put a musician like Dave Grohl and Chris Novelistic behind a guy like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. And I'll even argue with that last statement about Grohl, because that's arguably what made him such a damn good drummer. Was he was a genius at writing drum parts. I mean, he wrote some of the most memorable drum parts of not just the 90s but ever. Now, granted, he didn't write the In Bloom drum part, but that freaking Smells Like Teen Spirit, the plaka-ticka, 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 and then the stuff that he did with the Crooked Vultures. And
Now, them Crooked Vultures is where he really shined.
yeah, and he wrote a lot of, like, the Foo Fighters stuff. Like, he wrote, like, the drum parts for My Hero. But, which in my opinion, as a drummer, it's great to have all these chops and all that shit. But man, when you can write it's like working with Dane Clark. The dude got all the chops in the world, but he writes some killer fucking drum parts. Yeah. We were just
Mics
talking
are
about
still hot.
we were talking about Dave Grohl for some reason.
Yeah, he's a badass drummer, dude.
Yeah, I kind of took back what I said about him being the best drummer in the '90s because even he would disagree with that. But
I would say he's best.
I was going to say,
drummer.
do you know what drummers were around in the 90s?
I was saying he was a genius writer when it comes to playing drum. Like, he wrote some really memorable drum, parts that.
See, I always had the feeling about, and I could be totally wrong about this. This is a guess, and a shot in the dark guess at that. He always seemed to me like somebody that just felt it out more than he intentionally sat down and wrote shit like that.
I think he might have felt it out, but I think he had that in his head. Like, the My Hero drum part, that's no joke. That's a really well-written drum part. Who in the world would have thought of during the chorus, I'm going to play do 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 boom do. That's a really cool part for that. Mm-hmm. Whereas opposed to most people would just go to the ride cymbal. It reminds me a lot of Fall Out Boy's drummers. And whether you like Fall Out Boy or not, he wrote some really cool drum parts for their songs. And I think that was a big thing in like the 90s and especially in the early 2000s for drummings, where it wasn't so much as let's play a beat and then we'll play like some wishy-washy stuff over the chorus to make it bigger. Let's actually write a song on the drums here, and it's like some Neil Peart shit where like this is the verse. I'm following the guitar part on this, and then, but. Yeah, that's I've always liked that kind of era of drumming, even though I'm not good at that era of drumming. My era of drumming is the fucking groove and shit like that. But I'm starting to get out of that. A lot of the stuff I've been writing for the other band, Slow Gen, I've been kind of writing my own little drum parts to the guitar riffs. And I don't know if they'll work, but they're really fun exercises nonetheless.
It's a weird thing for me too, because I'm used to just totally working with the drums, and a lot of the music that we're playing in Slow Gen, it's like, no, everybody just follow the guitar player. And then on bass, it's like, and in a three-piece too, you got to have a busy bass. You got to fill in the blanks. So it's like follow the guitar parts, but also, I don't know. It's a weird combination of still be a bass player thinking rhythmically, but you have to be a lot more melodic than you're used to being.
Yeah.
Is it like you guys don't hit at the same time? Like you're not following?
No, we do. It's just
like music.
Bass
Not
is a rhythm instrument, right?
Right.
So imagine, you've got your toms tuned a certain way, and instead of having just a drum beat, you are trying to play those toms to line up with a guitar riff as well. Now, I'm not talking about the drums. I'm talking about how you're approaching the bass, right?
It's more like
I'm used to sticking with the drums, having a foundation of what the guitar's doing, but not
playing around it,
following exactly what it's doing.
Yeah,
and then working inside of that box. I'm hopping from the rhythm box to a more melodic box, and still trying to find a way to combine them to fill out the sound of a three-piece band.
Yeah. We're also playing a lot of songs that were around the era where they were trying to figure out what each part was really supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because we're coming out of jazz playing weird shit, that nobody's really ever heard before, so nobody wrote the rules on everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really exciting time to be a musician. I would have loved to have grown up back then, but because nobody knew what the hell to do. They were like, well, this is new, so let's do this and see what happens. And yeah, a lot of it was weird and a lot of it worked. And nowadays it's the bare basics of drum follows the bass, and
a lot of it's still fucking weird.
Yeah, you know, and I always find
and it's bass follows the drums.
Yeah, bass follows drums. Everybody follows the drummer, but it's one of those, like, as a drummer, I always like when you're playing like rock. Sometimes it's like, because blues you don't really want to follow the guitar or anything like that, but like when you're playing a rock song, I always have to sit here and think, okay, am I going to follow the bass or am I going to follow the guitar?
It's a lot more guitar driven in rock.
Yeah, do I want to follow what the guitar? Well, you want to follow the music, but you want to be like we're like not Dazed and Confused. Good Times, Bad Times by Zeppelin. That drum part follows the guitar part, you know. You know, ding ding da da do 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 gaga to get back to black gaga to gaga to boom boom. You know, it follows the guitar part. And that's cool that fit that song, but sometimes following the guitar part, even in a rock song, might not work for that song.
No.
So that's the fun part about writing drum parts is like what works here, what works there. That's why studying all different kinds of stuff really helps.
But that's so when Emma's working on getting a band started up. I'm helping her with that. And I told her when she went to start it up, I don't want to play bass for this band. I want to play guitar. And she's like, well, you love the bass. Why would you rather play guitar for this particular project? I'm like, the guitar's like the driving factor. It's not the icing on the cake. It is the cake. It's that style of music.
Yeah.
And we are reconsidering what style it's going to be, but the main idea was that it's going to be something like Hailstorm, Pretty Reckless, Paramore, shit like that. And to me, it's like if you listen to the bass lines in those songs, I would be falling asleep. I would. There are rock bands where there are
Paramore's honestly pretty technical though, dude. They fucking rule.
They are. They're a hell of a band, but their bass lines are fucking boring.
Their drummer's great if they could ever keep a drummer.
But then you look at bands like Iron Maiden, and what's special about them is their bass player is the band leader. He writes most of the songs, and every instrument follows what he's doing. The guitar riffs are written around the bass line. The drums are written around the bass line. It's a different type. And he's also a very melodic bass player. So it fits a lot with what he's doing. And if I was playing in an Iron Maiden tribute band, bet your ass I'd want to be on bass. Yeah. But you're playing stuff like Paramore where the bass line is just I don't want to do that all day. I don't.
I think his name is Josh Homme. He's the front man for Queens of the Stone Age, who Dave's been the drummer for a few times. The front dude, Josh, he's also a drummer who's a phenomenal singer, plays guitar. But I saw them when I was super young. I think Dave was with them. But Dave was always pretty inspirational back then when you were talking about. He might not have been like the best, like out of all the genres and shit, but he was like, to me, one of those founding fathers of like I know that there was drummers like in, the hair metal days who were playing with a lot of power and showmanship, but he was like the first cat to like take like to do it with that punk sound and
I think
be controlled about it. And
he really wrote the book for, just like John Bonham wrote the book for rock drumming, I think Dave wrote the book for modern rock drumming, what would be early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Because if you listen to drumming in the 80s, especially in rock bands, and then you listen to drumming in the 90s, and then you listen to early 2000s, a lot of that early 2000s rock sounds like something Dave Grohl would have wrote.
Right.
He was a very, I don't even know how you say it, like most drummers, you're like on an ocean. He was just a brick wall that built the whole fucking song, you know? And you got this like, back in the day where it was like heavy guitars and you're laying down a groove on the drums, but now it's heavy guitars and you got a heavy drum part following that whole guitar line, I'll say it again, like, or even, My Hero or Everlong, probably the more famous drum song for, drummers, the da 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 da. Then you got the. Now I don't know if Taylor or Dave wrote that, but like, just if you listen to Dave's drum parts, and I was a huge Nirvana fan, so obviously I listened to a buttload of their stuff, and then you listen to all the early 2000s rock. There was I'm not saying it was all Dave, but there was definitely a community around all of that really built that. And it sucks because like I never had any interest in playing like pop punk drums, but I always had a lot of respect for it because I ended up getting like a pop punk style like ska gig a couple years ago, and there was drum fills that I've never played before in my life, like the and I had to sit down and actually had to learn how to play the shit, and it was really humbling because I was like the basics I don't even know, and but I think he really started a whole generation of just drums, if not him, a whole community, which a lot of people don't. They always say like, well, he started this, and I'm like the same with John Bonham. John Bonham didn't write the book on rock drumming. He took everything that came before him, like even his famous triplets, like the crossover triplets. There was a jazz drummer, I can't remember his name, that was doing it back in the 50s. Mm-hmm. It's just John saw that and wow, I'm gonna do this. And John happened to be in the world's most famous rock band, so everybody was like, "Oh yeah,
Holy
that's how
shit, what's that?"
Yeah, that's how you do it.
That's somewhat similar to Larry Graham's whole thing. Like the first guy to play slap bass. He's the first guy to do it on an electric bass.
Yeah.
But that technique goes back to a lot of guys on stand-up bass. Now, when they did it, they were literally slapping the bass.
Yeah.
But Larry Graham talks about it like, well, me and my mom had a band, and we lost our drummer, and I had to figure out how to play drums and bass at the same time. It's like, yeah, and that's where his technique came from, which obviously, and what I like about Larry, the guys that came after him and perfected that technique, because it didn't used to be a pop with the finger. He would grab the string like this and let go.
Yeah.
And it was very inefficient by today's standards. But as people went on, and he taught Prince later on, but he took the style that he invented on the electric bass. Other people tried to do that, made it better, and then he went back and learned how other people did it and started playing it like that.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
You don't see that happen often.
No, like it blew my mind when I found out that Neil Peart actually got jazz drumming lessons later in his career, and it totally changed the way that he played. Mm-hmm. Because like you can kind of even hear it in his playing, like a lot of his like big fills, like kind of things were really stiff. And it, that really hurts you later on in life. And that's what's kind of funny about when you say like his technique changed over time. Like whenever you first invent something, because a lot of those guys back in the day, they were playing all over the place because it's rock playing. So they're taking all these jazz licks and they're playing it like uber tempos, and they're playing, not the greatest form in the world. And they got older and they had to like, either they died from whatever or they got older and they're like, well, I can't play like this anymore. And that's why a lot of days, like, you don't see drummers play like that anymore. Like the way that, like, if you look at videos of drummers back in the days compared to now, drummers nowadays are a lot more centered. They're more, their posture's good. They're more fluid. They can play, a lot cleaner because, we figured out technique over the years. And this is something I'm learning myself because I can't play the same way that I can play. I can, but I don't want to because I know that I'm years away from not being able to,
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of the stuff that John Bonham brought to the forefront, do you think he might have been the same way Larry Graham is, where he's like, yeah, sure, I was, the first to be doing this stuff, but they're doing it better this way, and I need to learn that. Do you think he would have hit that point?
John was from what I've read, he was a very humble and just down-to-earth, very kind person. And he used to go to the Who's recording sessions because he would watch Keith Moon play and take notes from Keith Moon, which is funny because I think John was a way better drummer than Keith Moon was. Now, Keith Moon was a monster, but I think John was very good at writing stuff for the music where Keith was just kind of all over the place. He did great in the Who, but,
Well, Keith had to work alongside fucking...
John Entwistle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what his nickname was.
I really do.
It was like the Bowl or something like that.
And Rich told me a story. Rich produces my records. He told me a story of, for some reason, Rich and one of his drummer buddies dragged him along to this drum convention. And all these drummers brought their kits, I think it was. And it was supposed to be, I don't want to say it was Vinnie Calihuda, but it was somebody like that back in that day. One of these really famous drum teachers showed up and was given this seminar. And then all of a sudden, Keith Moon and John Bonham showed up. and they started just all jamming together. So if that tells you anything about John Bottom and all those guys, like they were the best musicians in the world, except for people like Ginger Baker or whatever. Or you'll find that they are so all about collaborating because that's exactly how they got to where they're at. Right. A lot of those guys, they went to jazz clubs because they wanted to figure out how to get, how to do that shit, and they would pick the people's minds. And back in those days, they didn't have YouTube and shit. The only way that you learned is you went out to those places and you talked to those people, and you're like, how the hell do you do this? Or you pick up a vinyl and you put it on repeat and you try to figure out how the fuck they played it note for note and shit. So like, I think a lot of those old timers. Now, obviously, I don't know what the fuck happened to them nowadays because some of them are just really set in their ways and they're gatekeeping the shit. But I would like to think that a lot of those guys really were interested in learning what the younger generation is taught. Like Todd Scherferman or whatever his name is, he plays for Styx. Mm-hmm. Totally overqualified to play for Styx. But the dude is always learning. Mm-hmm. And he's been playing, since the 70s? Mm-hmm. And he's a monster drummer, So I think if you're truly in love with the craft, it doesn't matter how old somebody. I'm learning something from somebody that's 22 years old, I'm really like experimenting with snare drum tunings and shit, and I'm learning stuff from people all the time. I think if you truly love the craft and you're really interested and see how far you as a person will go, you'll learn from anybody. It's like songwriting. You'll learn songwriting tips from anybody. I've learned how to write songs from the old guy that sucked that didn't know how to write songs, It just depends on how open-minded you are and how much you're willing to learn from somebody,
And it was probably easier. Like, our generation comes from really pure rock. Like, I wouldn't say that any of us grew up, country too, but nobody really was like, we listen to rock and roll, but none of us really come from like jazz only backgrounds.
Yeah.
And those rock and roll cats, because there's a huge difference between, rock and then rock and roll. Because that rock and roll element is there to tell you that it's basically a collaboration of rock and jazz. Like Mitch Mitchell, Bonham, all those cats. Because you some of their stuff, you try and sit down, and unless you truly know some jazz foundations, you can't just sit there and listen to it and figure that out.
Ginger Baker's the same way with learning like Cream stuff and Blind Faith stuff. You're like, what in the world's going on here, Yeah.
Now, guys, I want to warn you, there's 4 people we need to watch out for here in the near future.
What?
That'll be Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello.
What do the Ninja Turtles have to do with it?
Yeah, well, we got pizza waiting on us.
Oh.
And I want to get to it before they do.
I am starving, so this has been the It's So Pizza podcast. We'll catch you next week.
God damn, baby.
Stay classy.
Stay classy, San Diego.